Mysterious maiden, 800 million years old. She's preserved as if sleeping. The Tisulsky rayon sarcophagus is found in Russia. Rayon actually in Russian means region. So when we say rayon, it's actually the area that this sarcophagus with this female mummy was found. This article has been circulating in a number of Russian sites. I'm reading the translation from one of them on Cartman. It's the Tisulsky sarcophagus. In 1969, the village of Rzhavchik Tisulskago region district during the stripping operations in a coal mine found a strange coffin. In it lay a young woman that seemed to be alive. In actuality, she seemed to be sleeping. Scientists found that her age, the age of the sarcophagus that is about 800 million years. This is a direct translation from Russia and Russian language, and that's why it's a little bit difficult to understand sometimes, but we'll read it anyway. They decided to check on the authenticity of what was being reported. The correspondent of a newspaper went to the area on an expedition where 38 years ago this was unearthed. And the story says, according to a writer called Oleg Kolishkia, he heard it from a retired KGB colonel who said, it happened in early September of 1969 in the village of Rzhavchik Tisulskago region of the Kemerovo region, and during the stripping operations of a coal mine in the heart of a 20-meter cold seam lying in the depth of 70 meters, a miner named Karnakov, who later died in a motorcycle under the wheels of a truck, found a 2-meter marble casket. Amazingly accurate mechanical design. The team supervisor, Alexander Alexandrovich Masaligaya, died in 1980 according to the official version from an ulcer. All work on the mine stopped immediately when, of course, this sarcophagus was found in the coal mine. The casket was brought to the surface and they began to open it. They started pecking around the edges of the sarcophagus and found petrified putty. So there was not so much from the shock of the effects of the putty from the effects of the solar heat when it was exposed to solar light, began to turn into transparent liquid and flowed. So the putty was a very strange material that flowed when sun rays hit it. The lid of the casket was filled in perfectly. It fit perfectly onto the sarcophagus, and for more durable connection of the inner edge was fringed with a double face, so it was tightly fitting. The discovery was a shock to the people that found it. The casket was a coffin filled to the brim with some kind of a crystal clear material, liquid material of a pink-blue color. So the whole casket and the girl that was in it, the maiden that was in it, was filled to the brim with a pink-blue crystal clear liquid. And in the underneath the surface, of course, was a slim, unusual, beautiful woman of about 180 centimeters. That's about my height. That's about 5'9", 5'10". She looked beautiful, and she appeared to be about 30 years old. She had fine European features and large, wide-open blue eyes. So her eyes were open. She had thick, dark brown with reddish tint hair, curly hair down to her waist, lightly covering her waist and resting along the body's delicate white hands, with short, neatly trimmed nails. She also wore a white lace transparent dress, and the length was down to just below the knees. It was short, embroidered, colorful flowers on the sleeves. She was not wearing any underwear from what it seemed, and the woman appeared as if she was not dead but sleeping. At the head, near the head, was placed a black rectangular, rounded at one end, metal box. Some believe it looked like a cell phone, and it was approximately 25 by 10 centimeters. So we can understand that's what the cell phone sizes look today almost. The coffin was opened for the public viewing for about 10 to 15 hours. And quite a lot of the villagers came, of course, to see it, to view this ancient maiden. Almost immediately at the discovery of this coffin, it was reported, and a large number of officials, of course, firefighters, military, police, government people, flocked to view, to see what was going on. 14 hours from the area arrived helicopters and dozens of police in plainclothes, who immediately said that the place is contagious, and ordered those present to move away from the sepulchre, from the tomb, from the coffin. They surrounded the area and took records of all who touched the coffin, and even stated standing close to the coffin in order for any urgent medical future examination. The coffin was attempted to be dragged into the helicopter, but it was too heavy, and they decided to lighten the weight of the sarcophagus coffin by removing the crystal clear pink blue liquid that was filling it. They pumped it out from the coffin. After they did that, the corpse started to immediately turn black. When they again added back the liquid, the black coloring from the body disappeared, and a minute later the cheeks began turning blushing pink, and the body returned into its former lifelike appearance. The coffin was finally loaded onto the helicopter, and together with the earth surrounding it and the putty that was sealing it, put in a plastic bag in order to examine it later on. And the helicopter removed the sarcophagus and headed to Novosibirsk. Within 5 days from Novosibirsk, Rzhavchik came, an early professor, and in order to study the relative findings. The professor said that he discovered that the age of the burial was at least 800 million years old, which refutes the Darwinian theory of the origin of man from apes. The woman was buried in a Carboniferous period of the Paleozoic era for millions of years before the appearance of the dinosaurs, long before the formation of the planet, the area of coal, when in the modern view, the Earth was a solid vegetable kingdom. So the coffin initially had the body of the woman and was standing in a wooden tomb in the midst of a deep thicket. Over the time, the crypt completely rotted away, the earth collapsed, and without oxygen for hundreds of millions of years, turned into a monolithic layer of coal. Coal. It was put forward initially that a genetic analysis of the woman's body, it showed that she was 100% similar to modern Russian humans. We are now one-to-one, such as were our ancestors 800 million years ago. In other words, there has not been any change in the DNA of the humans of the area. So it's established that the level of civilization which belonged to the woman exceeds all known so far, including our own. The nature of the clothing which made up the dress of the princess, from scientific analysis, conclude that such material is not man-made, or mankind has not yet invented it or rediscovered it. Whatever they had then is not used now. They haven't managed to determine the composition of the pink-blue liquid that was filling the sarcophagus either, that was keeping her body from deteriorating and making her look as if she was alive but sleeping. They only identified some of the components, and the components were a variety of onions and garlic. About the metal box of the sarcophagus, not the thing that looked like a cell phone, the professor had nothing to say, and he declared that, of course, that was being studied. So after that, the Tisulsky region district, where the mummy was found, was cordoned off by the military, where the area of the coffin was, and the area was carefully dug and covered up with earth. Despite the efforts of the authorities, people were still attempting to make their way to witness what was found there. One of the people involved throughout the whole of the excavation and the viewing of the body wrote a letter to the CPSU, Central Committee of Russia, and after a year he lost his life, according to the official version, from a heart attack. In the course of the year, one after the other, in road accidents, all the remainder of the 6 initial people who excavated the tomb also lost their lives and are now silently forever. And I'll leave a link below for you for this. This is very interesting. It's, as we said, a direct translation from the Russian. The reason I'm including an image of Alexander the Great is because I'd like to remind you all that Alexander the Great, after his death, was placed in a solid gold coffin, sarcophagus of gold, and it was filled to the brim with honey. Honey. Filled to the brim with honey because they believed, and of course they had evidence of the fact that the honey would have kept his body from decaying. And they transferred the body from the depths of India, where he passed away, in order to transport it to Egypt. So it was a solid gold coffin filled with honey. And I'll leave a link below for you for this article. Sarcophagus, that is about 800 million years. This is a direct translation from Russia and Russian language, and that's why it's a little bit difficult to understand sometimes, but we'll read it anyway. On Cartman. It's the Tisulsky sarcophagus. In 1969, the village of Rzhavchik Tisulskago region district during the stripping operations in the coal. Rayon actually in Russian means region. So when we say rayon, it's actually the area that this sarcophagus with this female mummy was found. This article has been circulating in a number of Russian sites. I'm reading the translation from one of them. Mine found a strange coffin. In it lay a young woman that seemed to be alive. In actuality, she seemed to be sleeping. Scientists found that her age, the age of the mysterious maiden, 800 million years old. She's preserved as if sleeping. The Tisulsky Rayon sarcophagus is found in Russia.